The chick flick, which my wife Kathy and I had been watching for the last 2 hours, was finally over. I had had one too many beers, but she seemed to appreciate it as I sat with her. I don't get it, John. How can a husband be so stubborn as to not understand and forgive his wife for such a small indiscretion? What the hell do you mean? It wasn't a small thing. She cheated on him, for God's sake. Any wife who cheats on her husband deserves any punishment. It's unacceptable in any situation. That's terribly harsh, John. A loving husband would be more flexible than that. He would realize that just because she strayed doesn't mean she doesn't love him. It means her feelings for him are less than they should be. A wife who cheats on her husband is actually saying she doesn't respect him and has no qualms about demeaning him, even if it's not to his face. In her eyes, he is less of a man regardless. What if that is not her intention? It doesn't matter what her intention is, Kathy. What matters is that she did it, and the result is inevitable. That's a lie, John. I can't believe you are so old-fashioned. All these things can be discussed and resolved. There is never a need for revenge on the part of husband. That only applies when the wife confesses the cheating before she is discovered by the husband. If he finds out before she tells him, she is doomed. If she denies it after she is found out, she should be burned at the stake. Most husbands are so unaware of what their wives do that very few get caught. This is a stupid argument. I'm going to get ready for bed. I'll be up in a few minutes. Kathy and I had spent most of the day at flea markets and garage sales. I didn't mind taking her every weekend because I usually found things to look at while she dug up trivets. She collected old cast iron trivets. The uglier they looked, the more I loved them. We both worked and were saving as much money as we could for our first house. Of course, I had to have a big kitchen with enough wall space for at least 100 placemats. We had only been married 6 years, but had been together several years before that. She was short and a bit stocky. I used to tease her because she had pregnant hips. We planned to have several children when we got settled in the new house. Right now, all we needed was enough money for an 80% down payment. I was finishing up an article in Sports Illustrated, but I couldn't help but think about the conversation we had just had. Kathy seemed to be a little defensive about the cheating issue. The subject had never come up. In fact, I had never even considered it as a possibility, but now it caught my attention. Most of the men I work with have their wives tied up. I don't have Kathy at all. I had always trusted her and had no doubts about her fidelity. I had never considered cheating on her and hoped she felt the same way about me. In any case, I decided that a little snooping would not be inappropriate. I was sure I wouldn't find anything, but just to be sure, I would look. I worked from 6 to 4 and Kathy from 8 to 6. That gave me a little time to do some digging. I got off work around 9 o'clock the next morning and stopped by the apartment. I didn't know what I was looking for, but it was starting to sound like fun. Some kind of secret treasure hunt. I didn't get a chance to start because I noticed a strange, sweet smell as soon as I walked in the door. It was air freshener, and lots of it. I started sniffing around, trying to figure out what was going on. I ended up at the fireplace in the living room. Kathy must have burned something in the fireplace and was trying to mask the burning smell with air freshener. The bottom of the fireplace was clean and looked freshly swept. The black soot on the bricks was still wet. If she had burned something and cleaned it up, the residue had to be somewhere. I figured if she was smart, she'd take it to work. She wasn't smart. There was a plastic garbage can in the garage wastebasket. I spread newspapers on the kitchen table and emptied the bag. Most of it was black ash, but there were small scraps of paper and some photographs interspersed. I'd like to say that I managed to turn some of the debris into something legible, but I didn't. All I knew was that she had decided it was important to burn some old papers and photos so I wouldn't find out. That meant something was going on that she didn't want me to know about. After the conversation the night before, I was now getting worried. My whole life was dedicated to Kathy and the future we were building together. Now it seems that I was a little remiss in observing what was going on around me. She was not being honest with me about some aspects of her life. I knew very little about her work or her co-workers. I never thought it was necessary for me to know. Well, now she has my attention. I stopped by Radio Shack on my way to work and bought 3 voice-activated digital audio recorders and spare batteries. At the wireless office, they were happy to give me hard copies of the last 3 months' calls on our 2 wireless units. I explained that we were being audited by the IRS and needed the information to verify deduction. I asked for both phones so it wouldn't look suspicious, but threw mine into the shredder at work. For the first time since I got married, I started having bad thoughts about my wife. I didn't like that, but I was just guessing. I got home a few hours before Kathy and had time to set up the recorders. The one in the living room, the one in the bedroom, and the one in the kitchen. I had to adjust the one in the kitchen so it wouldn't record the refrigerator running. I would turn them each on when I left for work in the morning. Dinner was ready when Kathy came home. "Hi, sweetie. I hope the chili is okay." Sounds good as long as it's not too hot. About halfway through the meal, I started to probe. "Hey, the house smelled like hell when I got home. It was like a cross between lilacs and burnt rubber." "What the hell did you burn in the fireplace before you left for work?" She'd been caught. She had tried to hide that she had burned those things, but now it had come out. "Oh, it was nothing. Just some old papers and stuff from school." "Why the hell did you burn them? Why didn't you just throw them in the trash or run them through the shredder? The way you cleaned the chimney, it looked like you were getting ready for the CSI to come in." "I don't know. Why is it such a big deal?" "Kathy, I find it very odd that you got up this morning, got ready to go to work, burned a bunch of old school papers, and then cleaned it up to make it look like it never happened. Do you blame me for being suspicious? Besides, they didn't look like school papers. They looked like letters and photographs. What the hell did you do? Go rummaging through the trash and pull that stuff out just so you could accuse me of something?" "Yeah, well, fuck you, asshole. You do the dishes. I'm going to take a shower and go to bed and read. You can sleep on the couch." Kathy had never spoken to me like that before, but I had never accused her of anything. A few seconds later, the shower was running. I pulled her cell phone out of her purse and copied all her speed dial numbers, all outgoing calls, all incoming calls, and all messages. It only took me a few minutes to scan her phone book into a computer file. I didn't mind sleeping on the couch, but the living room still smelled of lilacs and ash. I had plenty of time off from work, so I took the day off. I turned on the recorders and left the house at my usual time, but went to Denny's instead. Shortly after 8 o'clock, I returned home. Kathy made a call. "Hi, I'm having some problems at home." "No, it's nothing like that." She just suspects something is up, but has no idea what it is. She's being irritating and it's starting to piss me off. Okay. Sighs. "I guess I can do that. Maybe Friday. See ya." I had no idea who the mysterious person on the other end was, but I figured I would soon find out. I wondered what would happen on Friday. I spent the morning at the library going through her phone record. I could have done it at home, but the library's reverse phone book was better than the internet and faster. Of course it didn't work for cell phones for shit. I was able to eliminate most of the numbers because I knew them or was able to correlate them with her address book. It stood out like a sour thumb, the number of a TR. It was on his speed dial and in his address book. Also in the address book was a landline number, which turned out to be a Tom Rollins. Kathy worked with him at Generex, and in fact, I met him a few times. The last time was about 10 days ago at a company event. He and Kathy were very close all night, and I remembered that I didn't like him. He was married to a cute little brunette who didn't seem to be having any fun at the party either. I made a list of all the times Kathy had called Tom in the last 3 months and all the times he had called her. None of the text messages came from him. I assumed that Tom was the one Kathy had called this morning. There were a lot of calls, but I was just guessing. After making a couple of copies of the phone list, I stopped by Tom Rollins' house. I figured I had nothing to lose, so I knocked on the door. "John Connor, I was hoping I could talk to you. Come in." Damn, it was an unexpected surprise. "I'm sorry. I'm at a disadvantage here. I know you're married to Tom, but I don't think we've met. My name is Sylvia, but everyone calls me Sly." She held out her hand, and I shook it out of politeness. "John, what I need to talk to you about is the affair your wife and my husband are having." Wow. It hit me in the face again. I wasn't expecting that either. She seems to know a lot more than I do. "I'm filing for divorce from Tom and I'm naming Kathy in the suit. I have a lot of documentation to support it and would like to assist in several things. Sylvia, I don't mean to give you a hard time about this, but the truth is I just found out yesterday. I have no information to help you. The only thing I have right now is some phone records. Let me see." She was really anxious about what little I had. I gave her one of the copies I had and told her she could have it. Sylvia started going through the phone records like an IRS auditor. She made notations in the records and checked the information against the documents she had. She was smiling, and I thought she would burst out laughing at any moment. The more he worked, the more feverish he seemed to get. I finally stepped in. "Is there any information you can share with me?" "Of course. I'm willing to give you everything I have. Here, this is what I've gathered the last 2 weeks." She handed me 3 motel receipts. They indicated the date, time, and of course the name of the motel. All 3 were different. All 3 were paid in cash. The donkey doesn't realize that every night when he goes to sleep, I go through his pockets. I take the receipts and he doesn't even notice they're missing. He lives in his own world. I'm invisible to him. He seemed to get angrier and angrier as we talked. I started to get a little worried for my safety. I hoped he wouldn't get mad at me for being Kathy's husband. The veins were popping in his neck like a wrestler on TV. I don't think I've ever seen a woman so furious. She made me copies of the motel receipts and gave them to me. I have plenty more receipts and other things if you need them. Oh, wait. Let me show you something special. She left and came right back with a little zippered baggie. Inside was a pair of women's panties. Do you recognize them? Of course. In the baggie was a pair of gray-green bikini panties that belonged to a set my wife had. I pulled them out of Tom's coat pocket the night of the last company party. He went crazy looking in the closet and in the car, but he didn't dare say a word to me. Can I borrow them? Only if you promise to give them back to me. Deal. For the next hour, Sylvia Rollins ranting like a madwoman. I tried to leave several times but couldn't. Finally, she said she needed to lie down for a while and gave me the opportunity to leave. She mentioned that Tom hated condoms and refused to use them. I had dinner ready when Kathy came home. I was hungry as hell because I had skipped lunch. My wife was cool as a cucumber. I realized why I had never noticed anything. I picked up the plates and put out a couple of pieces of key lime pie, her favorite, and some coffee. Everything was very quiet. Kathy, can I ask you a question without you getting mad at me? Are you still going on about the fireplace? No, it's something else. Okay, go ahead. Where are the panties that go with this bra? I held up the greenish-gray push-up bra that went with the panties Sylvia gave me. I don't know. I guess in my dresser. Why the hell are you messing with my underwear? Are you turning into a pervert or something? Would you go get the panties for me? Kathy sat up and looked at her pie. There was no way I could get the panties, and she knew it. I could tell she was starting to get angry. You know, I just remembered. I threw them away last week. All the top elastic came out, and I didn't feel like fixing them. They were less than a month old, Kathy. You bought them at the mall 3 weeks ago. How did they wear out so fast? Her lower lip was quivering. Veins were popping in her neck. Her fists were clenched tightly. Damn. It was like he was with Sylvia all over again. Okay, Mr. Smarty Pants. Tell me what happened to my panties. Last week, when we were getting ready to go to your company party, I saw you get dressed. You wore this bra and the panties that go with it. I remember thinking how good you looked. When we got home from the party, you undressed in the bathroom, but I noticed you weren't wearing any panties. How did you lose your underwear from the time we left the house until we got home? I think you're wrong. I did have them on when I got home. You just didn't see them. Okay. Then tell me how they ended up in Tom Rollins' coat pocket? I held up the zippered bag containing the panties. Where the hell did you get them? From Sylvia, Tom's wife. Why? Son of a bitch. Stop sticking your nose where it doesn't belong. There's nothing going on between me and Tom. I have no idea how his wife got my panties. You got any more shit you want to throw at me? One more thing, Kathy. Here's a little form I made. I'd like you to fill it out. All I want to know is the date and place you met other men outside of our marriage. Here it is for you. As Kathy watched, I filled in the name of the motel and the date she and Tom last met. On the next line, I just put Tom's name and the name of the motel. On the next line, I just put in the date. Fill that in for me, Kathy, and then we'll talk some more. I knew the information I had entered on the form was correct. Kathy just stared at the paper and didn't move or say anything. Oh yes, one more thing, I said, raising my voice. I'm a little pissed that you and Tom didn't bother to use any kind of protection. It sucks that you cheated on me, but it's worse that you didn't even have the decency to use a condom. You had no qualms about bringing home some kind of disease to me. That really sucks. Did either of them bother to use protection, or was it just Tom who didn't? Hell no. It was just Tom. He was the only one who didn't use anything. There was a great silence in the room. I hadn't expected that outburst, and I don't think Kathy thought about what she was saying until it was too late. In her anger, she inadvertently hinted that she had had affairs with other boys besides Tom. I was just guessing. With one swipe, Kathy cleared half the table and ran out of the kitchen. I heard the bedroom door close and a soft cry. I spent the night in a motel. I called in sick to work and said I'd be gone for a few days. I returned Sylvia's panties as promised. She didn't say anything and seemed very depressed this time. I didn't press her and left as soon as I could. I found a small motel that rented rooms with kitchens by the week. Kathy wasn't there when I stopped by, so I went in and grabbed as many things as I could. I grabbed silverware, dishes, and some pans. It took me about an hour to set up my new kingdom. I couldn't help but think that a week ago, I had no idea something like this was going to happen. I started to walk out to the car when I saw Tom Rollins about 5 units down. He was carrying bags and boxes of stuff into the room. I had to chuckle to myself. The son of a bitch was doing the same thing I was doing. Either Sylvia kicked him out or he got fed up and left. It didn't matter, the result was the same. Just then, Kathy's car arrived. She didn't see me or notice my car. They talked a bit and then went into the room. After about 10 minutes, I decided it would be a good time to go to the house and get the rest of my things. I was sure they would be busy for at least an hour. I packed everything I could into the Honda. I took the computer, the cameras, the portable TV, all my CDs, and even took my George Foreman. I was unhooking the answering machine when there was a knock at the door. "Mr. Connor?" There were 2 policemen at the door. "Yes." "Are you Kathy Connor's husband?" "Yes, is she all right? Did something happen?" "I'm sorry to have to tell you this, sir, but your wife is dead." "No, you're wrong. I just saw her about 2 hours ago and she was fine." "Where did you see her?" "She was at the Desca Motel on Penn Avenue with Tom Rollins." "Mr. Rollins is dead too." "How?" "They were shot." "Look, I've been here the last 2 hours and I don't even have a gun. There's no way." "Take it easy, Mr. Connor. Take it easy. We've got the shooter. Mrs. Rollins shot them both as they were coming out of their room. She emptied her gun into them and then called 911. She was sitting by the bedroom door crying when we arrived. Are you going to be okay, or do you need someone to stay with you? No, I'll be fine. Thank you. Would either of you like to buy a placemat? A week ago, everything was fine. What the hell had happened? I was guessing.